There was an old lady who never blinked. She was born without the ability to blink, so she lived her whole life with her eyes wide open. You can probably imagine that this made her extremely sensitive to light and other visual stimuli. And even though it was painful, she got used to it over time. However, it wasn't only her eyes that were affected by this condition. It also led to her never closing her mouth, not even when she slept. This is one of those creepypastas that will make you never want to sleep again. So keep watching if you dare. When the old lady got older, she began to notice that her skin started to get really dry because she was not blinking and because she couldn't close her mouth. She had to put special ointments on her lips and face just so they wouldn't crack. Unfortunately, this didn't always help, and she could feel her skin getting red and sore from the ointments or from the wind and the sun. One day, she read in a newspaper about a new ointment that was supposed to be good for people with very sensitive skin. The article said that the ointment was made out of some rare plants that were found on top of mountains, and the lady decided that she would try anything to not have to feel the pain anymore. She went to the mountains, but she couldn't find any of the plants. Instead, she saw something else. There was a small cave in the mountain that looked like it might have something inside of it. The lady thought that maybe there was someone living there that could help her. So she knocked on the entrance to the cave and waited. After a moment, the door opened and the lady stepped inside. In the beginning, she couldn't see anything. But then her eyes adjusted to the darkness and she realized that she wasn't alone. Sitting in front of her was a man that seemed to be hundreds of years old. His face was wrinkled and dry, just like the desert that surrounded the cave. He had no teeth and his eyes were sunk deep into his soul. But what scared her the most was that he didn't seem to have a nose or a mouth either. When the lady asked him if he could help her, all he did was shake his head slowly. He then gestured for her to come closer. And when she did, he pointed at himself and said, "I am the mountain." Then he pointed at her and said, "You are the guest." With these words, the old lady understood that this man knew exactly why she was there and that he probably had the answer to her prayers. He stood up and walked deeper into the cave. The lady followed him without saying a word until they reached a wall. On the wall was a small opening that looked like a hole to a different dimension. It was dark inside the hole, and when the lady put her hand in front of her face, it disappeared. The mountain man then told her that she had to go through this hole if she wanted to get the ointment. Of course, the lady was terrified, but she didn't want to go back to feeling the pain. So she took a deep breath and stepped through the portal. On the other side, she found herself in a beautiful garden. There were flowers everywhere, and they smelled amazing. She could hear birds singing and water running through the garden. In the middle of the garden was a small hut, and the door was open. The old lady walked toward the hut and knocked on it. A woman opened the door. She looked young and beautiful, and she had the brightest smile the old lady had ever seen. The woman invited the old lady in and offered her tea and cookies. They talked for hours, and the old lady learned that the woman's name was Willow. She also learned that Willow was a witch. The old lady explained to Willow why she had come there, and the witch said that she had exactly what she needed. The old lady took the ointment and thanked Willow. Then she left the hut and walked back to the portal. When she stepped through it, she found herself back in the cave with the mountain man. She thanked him for his help and started to walk away. But the mountain man stopped her and wrote something down on a piece of paper. He then handed the paper to the old lady and said, "Do not apply the ointment to your face." The old lady didn't understand what he meant. She thought that he was just trying to scare her away, so she just nodded and walked out of the cave. When she got home, she took a look at the ointment. It looked weird and kind of gross. At first, she thought that she couldn't use it, but then she remembered how much pain she had been in, and she applied the ointment on her face. It felt cold and tingly at first, but then it started to burn. She could feel her skin getting darker and darker, and she felt something hard growing under her skin. In the mirror, she could see that her face was turning black and that the ointment was making weird patterns on her skin. She started to scream, but nobody came to help her. The next morning, her neighbors went to her house, but when they knocked on the door, nobody answered. They tried to call the police, but her phone kept ringing without anyone answering. They then opened the window and saw her sitting in a chair with her face turned black and covered in a hard shell. It was clear that she had been dead for quite some time. They called the police, But when they arrived, they didn't find any signs of foul play or a break. The only thing that seemed out of place was the container of ointment, but the police couldn't figure out what it was or where it had come from. In the end, they ruled it as a freak accident and closed the case. Nobody knows what happened to the old lady or where she got the ointment. But some say that the mountain man kept his promise and cursed her when she used the ointment on her face. Others say that the witch willow tricked her and that the ointment was actually a curse. Maybe the old lady just got cursed for being too nosy. Whatever happened, we should probably all remember to stay away from creepy caves and mysterious ointments. If you enjoyed this video, then check out more stories in our collection of creepypastas. We have hundreds of scary stories that will make your blood run cold. Also, if you want us to keep telling creepypastas, then please consider subscribing. This really helps us grow and reach more people with our stories. Anyways, thanks for listening and have a great night. Wait, where are you going? Please don't leave yet. Please stay and listen to this last story. There was a man who never smiled. People always told him that he should smile more often, but he simply couldn't. Whenever he tried to force a smile onto his face, it just ended up looking creepy. He couldn't even smile when he was alone. It just felt wrong. One day, he read in the newspaper about a psychologist who was good at helping people with unusual problems. The man decided to visit the psychologist and ask for his help. When the man told the psychologist about his problem, the psychologist didn't seem to care. He just kept nodding and typing on his computer. "I'm sorry," the man said, "but if you don't take me seriously, I will leave." The psychologist looked up from his computer and stared at the man for a moment. "All right," he finally said. "I think I know how to help you." The psychologist handed the man a prescription and told him to fill it at the pharmacy on the corner. "Take the pills every day for a month and then come back," he said. "That should fix your problem." The man thanked the psychologist and went to the pharmacy. He filled the prescription and went home. Every day he took the pills, but nothing happened. 2 weeks went by and still nothing. He was about to give up when suddenly he started to feel something different. He could feel a small smile forming on his face. He tried to get rid of it, but it just grew bigger. Before he knew what was happening, he was grinning from ear to ear. He went back to the psychologist, but when he told him about what had happened, the psychologist just laughed. "That's the side effect of the medicine," he said. "It makes some people smile uncontrollably." The man was desperate. He begged the psychologist to give him another prescription so he could stop smiling. But the psychologist refused. "You can't just stop taking the pills," he said. "You have to finish the whole pack." The man was furious. He threw the pills on the table and ran out of the office. He was now smiling, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was a forced and creepy one. People on the street stared at him, and some even took pictures. He wanted to hide, but where could he go? The only place he could think of was the psychologist's office. Maybe the psychologist could help him. But when he got there, the office was empty. The psychologist had disappeared. The man was trapped in his own body, forced to wear a smile 24/7. He couldn't eat or drink or even blink without ruining the smile. After a while, his gums started bleeding and his teeth fell out. His lips started to crack and his tongue swelled up. He couldn't speak anymore. All he could do was stare at the world through his forced grin. One day, he looked in the mirror and saw that his face was completely mangled. His teeth had grown back, but now they were crooked and yellow. His lips were dry and cracked. His eyes were sunken in his socket. He didn't recognize the creature that was staring back at him. It looked like a demon that had crawled out of hell. As the months passed, the man became more and more detached from reality. He started to see things that weren't there. He heard voices in his head. He couldn't tell if he was awake or asleep. Sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night and find himself in strange places. He didn't know where he was or how he got there. He couldn't remember anything from his past. He didn't know who he was or why he was alive. Then one day, he stopped smiling. The smile that had tormented him for so long was gone. Now he was stuck with a face that had no expression. No one knows what happened to the man after that. Some say he died and went to hell. Others say he's still walking the earth, searching for the psychologist who cursed him. But one thing is for sure, if you ever see a man with a soulless face, stay away. It could be him.